Hello, Awifians. Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you all, wherever you may be in the world. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday. It's rainy here. It's foggy. It's not a nice weather at all for me, but you're here. I'm here, and I hope that we're going to have an amazing conversation today to kickstart a very sensitive subject. My name is Lillian Mola. If this is the very first time you're watching me live, I am the founder and CEO of the African Women's Economic and Entrepreneurship Forum, the place where we challenge the status quo for economic advancement of African women. Today, we are going to be talking about the importance of the diaspora in rebuilding or developing the African continent. What is our role? Do we have any? How are we communicating with our beloved continent? How do we tend to take things forward? Today, I have amazing men from Sierra Leone, Canada, Gambia, Zambia. So please take the time to share this live stream with your family and friends. We are having some technical issues, but we shall continue as they try to join us. But already, I have Modu with me. Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Lillian, and thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure. Good to see you as well.
Thank you so much. You always say yes to my request, and I've been watching what you're doing over there. It's amazing how a young man can be so determined. What drives you?
Thank you so much. Well, I'm equally inspired about the work that you're doing as well for the advancement of Africa. I mean, what I'm doing, the drive is mainly, as a young person, seeing, what I can do to contribute to the development of my country. I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to, the generation, the next generation of entrepreneurs and young people that are coming up to really have a clear roadmap on where we want to put the development of our country going forward. So this is the drive, and seeing that, I've been lucky to have an opportunity to have experience, to have this conversation and other conversations that could help build, my country and Africa. So that's where the inspiration is, and also seeing a whole lot of young people that have the ambition and that have the opportunity. I'm trying to create a platform for them to educate, inspire, and connect them to investors and those that can really add value to their life. So it's basically the drive, and we hope to continue more.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We need more of examples like you. And I see we have James with us.
How you doing?
Hello. Thank you so much for joining me. Good. How are you?
Okay, Isaac. How you doing?
I'm great. How is it in Sierra Leone today?
Liberia. Liberia
is okay.
In
Liberia today, please?
Yeah, Liberia. We have a lot of rain. There are a lot of rain today. Yeah.
Okay.
So much rain today. Yeah. Well, weather is good. It's good, especially if you want to stay home.
The weather here is as terrible, maybe as yours. It's rainy, it's foggy, it's not pleasant at all, So
yeah,
I'm glad we're having a conversation. So James, please meet Modu. Modu, please meet James.
Hey, Modu, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Okay, pleasure. Pleasure meeting you. Yeah, it's great meeting you. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have two more people to join us, but we're going to carry on the conversation with the quote of the day, which states, when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. That's why we all are here today, because something is not right, something is not fair, and we need to speak up. Modu, does this quote speak to you? Does it resonate with you?
Absolutely. I think it's more about a commitment to seeing where you can actually play in terms of really something that's missing. I see the quote really connected to what I'm doing in terms of really seeing stuff that is missing and also trying to contribute to it. I think it's more about ownership. I think it's also more about just I mean, getting the right motivation to be part of the process, either to change it, either to improve it, or either to influence it. I mean, more about self-belief as well. Seeing a lot of things that needs to be changed, instead of complaining, we can also come with ourselves at our voice. I think this is really a stunning quote. I can say. Awesome.
And and James, does it speak to you?
Yeah, absolutely. It speaks to me. And I think the quote is actually speaking from two perspectives, and I wish we need to take one. That is from the point of advocacy or from the point of activism. Because if we are not taking the position, like for example, like currently now in my country, there are issues now. Women are demonstrating against rape because we have increase in rape of recent. So people are demonstrating against rape, but then we the men, we have to come up because we have to be in a position of advocating for our little sisters and daughters around. So we have to speak out, and we don't have to sit and just watch the women moving out, because for the women it's actually from the point of activism, because they are actually the main victim of everything. But then coming to our end, we have to play the advocacy role in the process of speaking against rape. So absolutely, I think this speaks volume to who we are, and also, yeah, say a lot as it relates to our activities.
So please help me to tell the audience who you are and what you are passionate about.
Okay, I'm actually James Mulva, and my passion is actually from 2 point. And I am an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So my passion comes from 2 point in the business sector. I focus on how can I create job for young people, and then the next thing I look at is how can I create a clean, green, and healthy environment. So to achieve that, I have to like focus on I have to focus on a lot of things as it relates to environmental sustainability. I have to focus on how can I create the necessary job. So our institution actually focuses on recycling of waste. So we recycle plastic and turn it to end products. We recycle organic waste, turn it into fertilizer. That's something we actually like reduce a little activities on, and we're hoping to scale up in that line. So our dream is actually to add value to every waste that I produce around. So that actually, those are things that we do, and we have been recognized as one of the top 50 African entrepreneurs Euro of 2020, and it's something we are proud of. And we also recognized as one of the champions when it comes to environmental sustainability by Clean Up Africa. So there are a lot of things actually we're doing, and like I said, our dream focuses on creating a necessary environment for jobs, especially for young people, and then creating clean and healthy environment for others. And the core bottom line is to generate revenue, and in the process of creating a necessary environment for everyone.
And what is the ratio of what's your gender balance for your company?
Uh, Currently, we have around 30%, and
Well,
30% towards like 70%. That is male towards female. But then the reason why we actually have to slow down more when it comes to the aspect of female a little bit, because most of our activities are actually hard labor driven, like for example collection using trucks. When we are discussing gender, we have to look at from the point of you know uh gender needs, because there are some work that the guys do we cannot tell the ladies to do it. Yeah, especially from our African context. Our girls are not able to get on the truck to go and do some hauling of things. We have to have our teams to get on the trucks. So when it comes to cleaning up or working sometime with the machines, we try to empower them to do that. So, and the only point we intending now to increase our female inclusion in our company is we are scaling up now. Hopefully by next year we should be scaling up in 6 different cities. So once we are scaling up, it means that collection will be at the highest level. So we will be having more women collecting around in other cities and be able to sell, because most of our collectors are actually women, like market women's and then youth groups and others. So we'll be scaling up. But for the indirect opportunities in terms of gender, we have like 60 to 40. That is, we have 60% of those are actually work with us are women, and then 40% of those are actually work with other men. So from the point of indirect opportunities, that is indirect employment, those are actually have their own institutions or groupings that do collection. Yeah, that's how the ratio is like in terms of that. But for
Great,
direct employment is like 70-30. That is 30% women.
great. A new model in your context, where is the place of women?
In the new
Well,
model?
interesting.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Model,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I would just say, I'm actually in the field of entrepreneurship. I'm actually a social entrepreneur. I'm currently director of Startup Grind, which is a global, which is like the biggest entrepreneurship ecosystem player in the world. Basically, what I'm focused on is really passionate about helping entrepreneurs find markets, connect with investors, get the right MVPs to scale up their startups, and also having also accelerated programs as well. That's also going to prepare them to pitch to investors, and a few other stuff. So, um, I would say, 75% of the speakers that actually come to our platforms are all women. It's quite fascinating. If you look at most of the participants that we've been in Gambia and even across Africa, we've been able to really, get very, very passionate women who
yeah, yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Now we have our next speaker, Musaba. Hello, how was your flight from Canada?
I'm fine.
Good
My
morning.
apologies. My laptop decided to do updates at the wrong time. So
We've all been there.
Sure.
But we are happy to have you. Please introduce yourself, who you are to our audience, please.
my name is Musawa Chailunga. I'm from Zambia originally, but I've lived in Canada the last 25 years. Um, I'm a software developer, and I'm also into social and economic development, and I'm the author of Object-Oriented Development in Africa, a book focusing on rural development, using market economy.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share the link to that book. So if anyone is interested, please, it's packed full of information. Go get your copy. Go get your copy. I will share the link in a few minutes. So thank you all so much for accepting my invitation. As I was saying at the very beginning, that the quote of the day is that when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. And we all are here today to speak up. We are speaking up to something which is not right. We all know something is not right. And we all know we can do something. So we are the change that is expected in Africa. But how do we take this conversation forward? Musaba, we know that the African diaspora is very supportive of its continent. We know that there is huge potential in how much we can bring to that continent. We also know the figures. We know that in 2019, sub-Saharan African countries received 48 billion. In 2020, there is an expectation, a drop of 23.1, which is still 37 billion going towards Africa from its diasporas. So my question today is, looking at the amount here, it's huge. And this is like the GDP of so many African countries in total. So my question again, which remains untouched, is where does the conversation start on these funds that is being sent to Africa? Are there better ways of using these funds? Are we doing the right thing right now? Musaba.
To start with, I think individuals at the individual level, they are doing the right thing. And that's why the numbers are very high, because basically remittances, people are focusing on sending money directly to their relatives or to do their own projects on the continent. So the motivation is already there. What's not there is the structure and the system that can coerce people to do things together, so that we can target our capital or our finances to be able to do projects that are going to benefit the continent. Because at the moment, really, most of it, I think, goes to consumption. And consumption is not very good, because when you send money, it's probably maybe a very small percentage of it stays on the continent, right? Because as soon as some people get money, either they are going to buy an imported product, or they are going to get on the plane to go to either China or Dubai. Nothing against those countries, but then you go and spend the money there. So even though the money went to the continent, it actually comes out immediately. So we have to find ways to ensure that the money actually stays, so that it circulates longer on the continent.
That is a very difficult thing to do. And that's why we are here today. How do we start the conversation? I mean, we are all, as you rightly said, we are doing the right thing. But if we are doing the right thing, where can we change our attitudes, our habits when we send money back home? How can we start this change or this shift?
I think, first of all, I think we have to trust ourselves to begin with. There's very little trust in, say, the institutions, the government institutions. So the governments have to meet, especially the diaspora, halfway, right? Because one of the things that is there is that the people in the diaspora have seen how things work. Even if, like, say, for example, if you have money here in the bank, no one will take it. It won't disappear unless the bank goes down, right?
Yes.
If you have money in Africa, it's usually somehow someone goes to withdraw. If you have a certain amount of money, you have 20,000 in your bank. They tell you can only take out 5,000, right? So because of that, people are not willing to save more money on the continent. You see, so that's another way, because the money, you see, when you send money to Africa, the foreign exchange that's earned, the government does not actually has to use it. They just have to show it. You see, just having a number showing that you have this amount of foreign exchange is good for the country. Now, you can only do that if people are really confident that when they send their money in the local banks, the money will be safe, right? And then also our own people. I think there's a conflict between the Africans in the diaspora and the Africans on the continent. There's this miscommunication and misunderstanding where we feel like the others are saying you don't know, and the others you don't know, you've been away for too long. We have to find a way to communicate correctly. And that's where, when we come up with ideas, they are able to stick together. We are able to cohese and then be able to work together.
Much appreciated. James, the African diaspora is not only the brain drain that we are used to. We know that when we leave, we'll never come back the same, or we're going to we lack jobs in our continent. But there are more and more diasporas that are involved in the development of their respective countries. Me, Cameroon, Liberia, Zambia, you name it. In your opinion, what is the role of the diaspora? We cannot hear you.
I mute my mic. You hear me now?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay. For me, I believe the role of the diaspora, especially when it comes to the development of Africa, is actually stem from the point of sustainability from the end of them, because most of what actually they send to the continent I think it should mainly focus towards development. And their road has the giver, because whenever you go to the bank, there are two things that you actually have to sign on the paper for our end: the receiver and the sender. So they are always like the sender of the money, and then you are the receiver. And I think their key role is actually to be able to send something to the continent that they have labor for. That one of their major role. And then the next role is how can it actually be used for the appropriate purpose. So in my opinion, their role is beyond just sending money, but there are a lot of things that they have to do. Like, one, from a political standpoint, they have to be involved in what is actually happening on the continent. They have to speak out. They need to say things that are actually happening. If there are issues of bad governance, they need to speak on them. They need to have those forums that actually will speak against bad governance. If there are issues of rapes, abuse of women, I think they need to speak out. It's not only about just sending remittance, but it's about how can we work together and then be able to support our continent. Because the diaspora is actually silent, and I think it's not really doing well for the continent. They need to speak out. They need to come out and then see how they can coordinate in various countries across Europe, the United States, and other places. They need to come and network together. And another thing I think they need to do is the social economic implication of the countries. Now, if you look at our countries, it's not only about just sending money, it goes beyond sending money to our country, but it's about how can we have those money that are being sent be used for the appropriate means? It has to do with the receiver. And from the government end, again, it's about what infrastructure are they putting in place. The diaspora who are actually sending remittance to Africa, how can they have some level of flexibility on them and other issues? How can they promote the idea of supporting your country? I think there should be some program set up to be able to promote and recognize diaspora who are actually doing well back home, and that will motivate others to be able to do more. And now, from the end of economic or technology end, I think it's something more and more they need to look at. And the network should be able to work together. Like, for example, you have Musaba, who talking about software. He's a software developer, right? Now, that one of the major problem we have is having better software on the continent. There are a lot of things that we do. Like, for example, we do like waste management. How can we track down? How can diaspora work with people that are actually innovative on the continent, that they can be able to, come up with idea? How can they invest into them? How can they go into a business agreement, like an investment process? Because, like, for example, I was in Switzerland the last time. That was last year, September. I was in Switzerland, and then I had a meeting with the Liberian diaspora, and it was a unique one, and we talked on most of these things. And I told them there's the need that you try to invest back home. And most of them said, oh, we try to send money to our family, but most of them will eat the money. We try to establish business network with them. They will eat the money. And I told them that it's important that you look for a private institution that has no link with family, right? To
Yes.
see how you can
Yes.
invest in those
Yes.
institutions. Because
Yes.
if you focus on family, they will rely on it. They will always stand by the relationship and try to, do a lot of things. We have that experience in our country. I don't know for other countries around Africa, right? So I think there's a need that you work with private institutions, could go look for business ideas, and then ask people to pitch their business ideas. And then the best ideas, you can do your investment in that business. Because this is the point: the Western world or other countries, Africans are traveling to those places, they will not remain there forever. Once they are getting old, you have to return home. So the question is, what are you going to see home? So if you have an investment that is running in your country, and you have partners that have maybe 60%, you have 40% in that investment, I think that investment also will always allow you to come and go back home along the process. So I believe they are more alike that they need to do beyond just sending remittance, but it's about how they can have tangible investment on the continent.
So clear. Your message is extremely clear, and you are way in advance with your technology company. However, the next time you come to Switzerland and you don't see me because I'm not Liberian, we're going to be in big trouble, two of us.
I'm sorry. Hopefully I will be there next year. I will try to find you.
And it applies to us all.
Yeah,
Musaba, this is your man. This is my James is your man today.
yeah.
How can we
And
use technology in his case, in his company, right now, looking at this actual context of Africa and the situation that we all know, I don't want to use words, how can you in Canada, what advice, what support can you provide to a company like this?
I think is right, and I'm glad he mentioned private companies. I'm very much into like working with private companies because there is very little political interference, and there's people that are doing it. When you set up a business, you want it to succeed. You see, you spend more time on it, so that's a good thing. So basically, it's most of the technology actually exists. You see, it actually exists. What is needed is just to transfer the knowledge and to transfer the technology. You just need to tweak it a little bit. However, the technology exists. That's why if you look at just the phones themselves, right? We are able to communicate, the four of us and other people who are not here, just at the click of the button, right? So this is how technology has gone. It doesn't matter where you are, it's going to work exactly the same. And I also don't believe in people who say uh, Africans cannot get these things. You see, there are a lot of people who say things like that. I'm not one of those people because I know that it's very easy to show someone how to do something. If you look at kids, how they learn how to use gadgets, even in homes, usually you buy your phone, you don't know how to do it, you have to go to your child,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
if so even in this case, you'll be surprised how quickly people can learn these things. And like in many instances, we have seen that technology companies themselves, they have actually started moving, even from Europe and North America, they've started moving to Africa.
Yeah.
But we have to be ahead, and we have to have people like James talking to people outside so that we can actually collaborate on some of these solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. We are going to make things happen. It starts with a discussion. And that's why I'm so honored. You cannot imagine my joy, my pride in having you all on this platform. When I was preparing the question, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to say? What should I ask? What should I not ask? But it's such a touching subject. It's such an important topic that we should really sit together and have this conversation. Modu, the relationship between Africa and its diaspora is not only financial, as we can hear. We are seeing more African diaspora bridging the skill gaps. Why is the asset of skills important to Africa? Because you are the man to talk to with your tech and grind, and you are the guy to talk to. So why is it so important to focus on skills?
Thank you so much, Lillian. And quite insightful conversation from James and Musa as well. I think that's actually very important. Most of the work that I've been doing, partnering with Google and AWS, Amazon Web Services, is definitely trying to get them to be part of the development process in Africa. What we are seeing currently is that most of the people in the diaspora have the skills necessary for the development of tech. But I think what actually is missing from the conversation that we have with most ecosystems across Africa, I think is a way of having that kind of correlation and connection between the diaspora, those people with those skills, and how can they really like bring it back home. One of the things that you kind of see when you actually work with most people in the diaspora is that they kind of really want to invest. They kind of really come back home and be part of the development process, but there is a lack of data, on, there's a lack of data on which skill set, which sector needs to develop here and there. And I think this is really a problem where, simple thing that government needs to do. I mean, in our case in Gambia, the government actually went ahead and set up what we call the Gambia Diaspora Directorate, something that's going to have like sort of like a data that's going to capture different sectors where you can have different diaspora personnel that can actually fill in those skills. But I think the other important thing as well is if all of these diaspora with these amazing skills, working for Microsoft, working for Freddie Mac, wants to come back home, what do they have in return? I mean, one of the conversations that is pretty much has been there is like, I mean, I want to come back home, but I mean, there is no sort of like a structure for me to actually fit in. So, you know, you want to set up a master class or you want to do sort of a training tech, you find out that most of those people in diaspora, but there is a missing link relationship between them and the countries that they are actually coming to. I think it's more about proper data. There's a whole lot of missing data in terms of content. I think it's important that most of these areas are actually tapped into. Like you can be in Europe, you can be somewhere, you know, in Switzerland or in France, and to be able to see areas in your country where there is an opportunity. I think this is really an issue of data. How can we get our governments to try to connect the missing links in the situation where those in the diaspora can really look at it? When you look at skill set, one of the things that you also see is that most of the diasporas that you communicate with want to come back, whether it's technology firms, but if you look at the margin skills, in that, can you get the kind of skills that you need from these tech companies? Like, how can they really correlate with what exactly you want? So, meaning that those also in these local countries needs to be at the same level to what exactly you want. And I think, you know, in as much as we want the diaspora people to actually come back home, we also need to ensure that the human capital in these different countries are actually also beefed up. So, meaning that there's a whole lot of innovation that needs to be accepted. When I started doing startup grind and bringing all this Google thingy in Gambia, it was kind of strange, you know. I mean, what you do see is that even governments are receptive to the idea of these innovations. So, I mean, you want to tell me that you want to develop, you want to improve your cloud infrastructure, and you're not even willing to, you know, like adapt this technology. So, you know, we need to really encourage the diaspora people, and to do that is to be able to accept them to come and tell us, hey, this is something that we can improve. Skills is really there. We have all what it takes to improve the African continent. But I think the most important thing is, you know, having this information and data where these people, and also not only that, but also giving, you know, investment opportunities really easy for these people to come back home. Because why do I want to invest back home if I'm sending this money and then it's going to go back to my family? Why do I really need to think about investing in a local startup in my country? I think this conversation spans around where are these opportunities and how can we leverage on them.
You have so many important points, but all of us keep talking about going back home. Personally, I would like to say something here. Going back home for a male diaspora, it's almost a yes. But for a female, it's something very different. Again, it's because when you've been somehow not fairly treated by that continent called Africa, and you try to get out of there, you don't want to go back to be mistreated again. Africa is very disrespectful to intelligent, financially free, courageous women. And if this doesn't change, this bias is going to drag everything down again. So my question to you back again, Musaba, have you experienced, or do you have the idea, do you feel that the continent is not really opening the door? The doors are not open enough for both parties, both genders?
I would agree with that, mainly because, and I think it's going to change. It hasn't changed yet, but I think it will change. The reason being that what we are seeing in Africa has already happened everywhere.
Yes.
So we shouldn't just look at Africa that Africans are not fair to women and things like that. Because even today, even in the US, the United States of America, women are still complaining, right? So, however, and then some of it also in Africa, there's a question of religion, right? So some people want to confuse religion with African culture. There are some things that people follow out of, like, depending on the religion. I don't want to mention the religions,
Yes,
because if
yes.
depending on the religion, you are going to see that some, they consider women to have certain behavior,
Yeah.
right? So that is very difficult to deal with, because it's faith based, right? Now, culturally, if you talk about, say, for example, Zambia, right, and most of Southern Africa, we have matrilineal societies and patrilineal societies. Where I come from is matrilineal. The women are very, very powerful.
Yeah.
We inherit everything through women, right? So, however, when you look at in the workplace, people disregard that. You see, and that's what I'm sure Lily is talking about, where some people even women are asked very demeaning questions. Like, if you see a woman with a car, some men cannot even conceive that the woman just bought the car with their own money. You
Yeah.
see, and
Yeah.
that's not very good. However, I think we have to focus on the progress that's being made, and we have to encourage women to move back, because these are the women we need to speak to the younger women that are coming up, or to see them, at least to see them that they are making progress. We can't force things on people. People have to decide.
Yeah. Yeah. James, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think for me, I think one thing we need to do that we encourage our women to come back is we need to build a competition. I think men need to stop women being power, because a real educated man is now afraid of a powerful woman. Because if you are educated and a woman is educated, you think it's an opportunity that both of you can be able to have that synergies to make great changes along the line. So I think one of the major things that we need to work on is education, because some men they are afraid of educated women. So because of that fear, they try to like use their muscles and strength to get at them. So I think we need to focus on education, and education will help the continent a lot in terms of gender balance and gender sensitive along the line. And in addition to that, one thing we need to do is to get rid of these fear factors, especially in terms of how our rape laws are structured, because we need to have our rape law to be in a position that will protect especially small girls, women in general, because most of the laws around rape, I think they are more like politically driven things that are not more effective, and I think we need to make them more effective on the continent. In some countries I think it's working, but in other countries I think we need to really strengthen them, that we encourage women to find that free environment, safe environment for themselves to be able to move on. So I think basically we need to create an enabling environment for more women to come over. And like you said, yes, it's true, more women will be afraid to come over because of some fear factors back home and some reasons why they left. But with the environment be free and okay for all gender to move in and do a lot of things, I think we will encourage our women to come back.
We hear you loud and clear, but this point had to be made just in case other people are thinking of the same thing. So now the second part that Modu said, which I thought was very interesting, is the missing link. How do we start creating this missing link? This is one of it already. However, the African mindset is so limited, it's so small because of poverty, because of the way we were brought up, because of the culture as well. How do we start creating this link without people being afraid businesses will be taken from them? How do we create the space of confidence and promote this link, which is so much needed for the continent?
Yeah, I think let me just say this quickly. For me, I think,
Yes.
like I said, one of the major things, and I will keep saying it until we end this conversation, we have
Yeah.
to focus on education. Education is very important. It's very, very important. And we have to build a trust, because if we have a better education, if we can have everyone educated we will definitely be able to move on with a lot of things on the continent, and that will definitely get rid of. And we need to build that trust. And people should be there should be strong law that will prosecute people who are actually doing the wrong thing. Because if you see most of the countries, like where you are in Switzerland, you can easily put anything down and move around. You still pick it up. No one. You don't have a lot of giant side doors to your house. There are doors that you use. You don't see armed robbers coming over. So there are a lot of things we need to put in place as it relates to enforcement of law that will be able to build that trust. Because without trust, it's difficult. Because I remember one time I was in Sweden, and then I asked one of my colleagues there that what was your greatest resources in terms of development. And one thing he told me our greatest resources is trust. He said
Yes.
trust is actually what we have. He said we live by trust. So if you just lie to us, it's something that we're going to hold it against you for life. So I think those are things really we need to work on. We need to have an educated society. We need to reduce the level of people, because the more a man is educated, lesser fear he or she has as it relates to the next person. But the
Yeah.
limited they are educated, how dangerous they become in society. So I think education is key, and then we need to build a trust along the line.
Musaba, how do we start creating the link, the missing link that Modu is asking for?
I think I would add on education. Education is one key. Um, but another thing is what is a Harvard professor, which I borrowed. I knew what it was, but I didn't have the term for it. It's institutional voids. Basically, there are some institutions that are missing. Um, in most of Africa, we have people that are very gifted. Say, for example, if you want to start even a small business, right? Most of Africa, even if you saved money, the business that you want to start, you have to build your own building, right? You have to do your own shelves, and then the transport to be moving the product. You see,
Yeah.
um, most of the businesses here, if you want to start a business, all you need is your product because there's someone already offering the building, to be able to move, and that comes to trust, and that's the trust part. Because if someone says they're going to pick up your product and deliver it, you are confident that they will do it, and the customer knows if they order something from you, they know that it will come, right? So it's a very important point that I think James made about education and trust. So we have to educate ourselves in understanding these things and also ensuring trust, and so that we can fill these institutional voids that are missing, because it becomes very expensive for
Yes.
a business, for
Yeah.
someone to start a business to so that they have everything. There are people here who start businesses, good businesses, they only have a bicycle, but because the bicycle is only they are only moving on it, they don't have to move product on it. The product will be moved by someone else who's offering a service to move products.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we have education, point number one. Number two is trust. So, Modu, back to you. How can we start creating the link that you think is necessary for Africa?
Thank you so much. I mean, I think they've actually said it all in terms of really using education
Yeah.
as really an important tool. But I think one of the things that we also need to look at is we need to take ownership of most of the things that happen, and it has to cut across every individual. We need to build institutions that really make citizens understand that everybody has a role to play in terms of how our countries move. Because when you look at, I mean, and it goes back to education, when you look at some comments on social media about certain political opinions, I mean, it makes you understand even the lack of education that, I mean, most of these people have, because they're not able to differentiate between certain conversations and certain conversations. So I think it's more about being really taking responsibility of the development of our countries, and every individual in our country, every citizen needs to really believe that they need to take ownership of whatever happens for the future of themselves and for the future of their children, because it starts within the individual, it starts within us. So if we are not able to make decisions that really, right now, it's more important that I'm sharing this platform, but I think when I'm building programs, I'm looking at where can this take Gambia in the next 10 to 20 years. So every individual needs to look at whether you have a job, whether the government helps you, whether you don't, whether the government doesn't help you. I think it's more about what do I really need to do for my country? And you also need to be able to open yourself to learning, learning different things. It's not always enough to say, oh, I'm good in, like investment. I cannot really learn more about other things. I think it's about development is multifaceted. It's more of about wherever development is, where exactly can I play in? So when we have all these different individuals from the diaspora with different expertise, we're able to channel them through in different areas, in different institutions, in our different countries. And now they start disrupting. So if we start disrupting governments, we'll be forced to act. And that's why the private sector, the diaspora are very important. Because when we're able to channel through all the disruptions that they're doing outside of Africa, to Africa, now we're actually forcing the government to act. Because most of these governments, the truth is they're sleeping. I mean, they only want to see disruptions to act. Or probably you need to see private sector development building a hub for you to understand what's the difference between having a cloud or still having the ministry using these old files. Why do I need to get rid of these old files and replace it with cloud? Probably if you have fire, you're probably going to lose all your files. So why does the government needs to update its, protection of data through using cloud? So it's more about going back to education. Even these government institutions needs to be educated on the importance of these new technologies. So it goes back to us also for those that are doing this kind of programs to really advocate more so that the government will start to be aware. Some of the people that really matter will start to be aware that these things are happening. Even those in the diaspora will start to believe, hey, I never knew that there's a program called Startup Grind in Liberia or in Gambia. Now they start to build interest in Africa. So I think it's more of about the visibility and also rebranding the way Africa is seen. We need to rebrand it. We need to make it look fashionable, we need to make it look fashionable so that investment, can really start coming. If you look at the number of investment that actually happen in Africa, you look at Nigeria, for example, millions of dollars actually came, which is really good for us because then it seems that in actually looking at Africa. Now, how do we build this? We also need diaspora to also start investing. So it's more about ownership, responsibility. I'm not only sending money to my family, but now I need to start, if I really go out of retirement in Europe, do I really have something back home? I think instead of now sending this money to go to my families, now I need to start sending a quota to invest in a certain business. Maybe telling my brother to open a coffee shop, telling my brother to open an ice cream shop. It's more about empowerment. So this is basically what I think really needs to be looked at for both the diaspora and also the governments.
I completely agree with all of those points. And I would just like to add one more thing to that. I think we all agree and we know that each country in Africa is different. Africa has a population of 1.3 billion, okay, with 55 countries. So let's not stay only to the country in which we were born in. Let's try to see beyond where we live if there is a better connection or synergy with another company. Staying just where we are is keeping us small. It's time, as you said, we start being visible and to start collaborating with other people. Africa is huge and has so much potential. But if we just keep staying in our own little environment, it's not going to change. It's not going to move the needle that much. Which brings us to the next question, and it's to you, Musaba. There is a shift happening now where Africans worldwide are coming to conclusion that Africa should be rebuilt by Africans themselves. But okay, the person who was supposed to answer the question for Sierra Leone is not here. So in your case, how does this fit in the agenda, in the political agenda of Africa? How can we use this shift?
This shift, I think it starts, maybe not starts, but it has been confirmed by the fact that the AU have actually created the free trade zone.
Yes.
In the beginning, already we have regional groupings. In Southern Africa, we have the SADC, and I think there's ECOWAS, and
yes.
and then we have the biggest one before the continental one was COMESA, which I think moved from Egypt up to South Africa. So these institutions already exist. Now, the biggest problem that I find, most people tell you Africans don't like each other, whatever, but that's not the problem, really. The biggest problem is the physical infrastructure that connects the countries, say roads and railway, right? And
Yes.
even flights.
Yes.
I don't think there is a direct flight from Zambia to
No.
or the
No.
Gambia.
No.
You see,
No.
so you want to go to Cameroon, you have to fly to Europe and then come to Cameroon.
Come back. Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe thanks to Ethiopian Airlines, and I think you can now go to Ethiopia and go to a lot of African areas. So in that case, at least we are beginning to have these connections being created. At the individual level is very also important, where we have to be, I don't know how to put it. Most people confuse self-interest with selfishness. You see, most of the things that are driven by self-interest. If someone knows they are going to gain something from what they are doing, not being greedy, but just to gain something, then they'll be able to invest in it. If I know that if I can get, say, for example, cheaper rice from Mali, right, which is cheaper than Chinese rice, I would start getting rice from Mali and selling it in Zambia. It's just simple. You see, so these are the things that we have to work on. We have to be able to understand what's causing the problem, what is creating the bottlenecks. Why are we not working together? Let's eliminate these artificial reasons of self-hate. Africans don't get along. Those are just lies. People are making things up. The problem is that even if you even to move a container, it's impossible to move a container of something from Zambia to Nigeria, right?
Only in this in Cameroon itself is another story on this.
Yes, so these are the things we have to focus on. So when we are talking in terms of solutions, that's what we have to focus on, the physical infrastructure. And that's why, for example, when it comes to China, most people are so much against China. China has issues, but most of the issues created by China are actually our own governments, right? We are not putting the foot down. We are not saying, let's do this. But the Chinese are willing. The good thing about the Chinese are not saying we can only build the road if you do ABC.
Yes.
They are only saying we are going to build the road. So then why not tell them we need 3 railway lines connecting on the East Coast line from south to north, right? And the one in the middle and the one on the east. That way we can have easier connections. Now, these things won't come cheap, but we have the capacity to pay for them. The capacity, Africa has the capacity to pay. Forget when people say Africa is in debt. Africa is not in debt. Africa is not in debt at all. We have the money.
I'm coming with another series asking, is Africa as rich as it claims? So we'll find out in that series as well. So Modu, how can this fit in the Africa agenda?
I mean, I totally agree with Musaba. I mean, I think I would actually talk in the interest of, I think it's high time that, but I think most of the money that we spent in really building some of these things could actually be done by Africa. I think we also, if you look at most of the development plans that most of these countries have, you really have an external forces really coming here do most of this project. I think it's high time that there's a whole lot of engineers across Africa. There's a whole lot of companies owned by Africans that really need to be coordinated, even in our procurement bidding process in our different countries. Why are we not using Africans, our own people, to do this? I think it's high time that our governments really structure these policies, these acts to favor Africans, because that's the only way we can beat the odds. But if most of these opportunities are given to Europeans or other people, I mean, it's actually not going to help the continent. I think with the AFCFTA, it's actually going to try to really improve the process in terms of infrastructure and also in terms of dialogue, but also in terms of improving, business-related issues across different countries. Because if you have a business that actually deals with supplying mangoes to another African country, probably it will get perished in most of the checkpoints. So I think we need to remove these barriers. We need to be very flexible. We need to understand that, we need to create, those safe spaces for Africans to really be able to dialogue and communicate with each other. I shouldn't have a problem traveling to Zambia, but now if I want to come to Zambia or Sierra Leone or another country, it's going to be like a whole lot of transit. So it goes back to the problem of really designing policies, designing structures that really needs to favor Africans. I think we just have to be selfish in that way. I mean, there's a whole lot of knowledge here. I mean, it's really painful when you look at these publications and you see expats being looked at from different countries. I mean, it's really not fair. We have a lot of intellectuals that can actually solve most of the problems in terms of way. And remember, when we hired most of these Europeans or older people, I mean, we're also creating, most of these people don't actually do it for free. I mean, we can create debt free for Africa, for example. Maybe it might not be huge, but by really avoiding really international contracts and so on, these people to even put this way, defaults will be minimized. It's important to take our own people, to solve our own problems. I think everybody needs to be responsible. We have all what it takes. So what's the problem? Why are we really struggling with these things?
Exactly. Exactly. And one more thing, when talking about the railways, and we are thinking of the Chinese to build what we want, my question is, go to Germany and see how many highly qualified, highly skilled tech engineers from Africa. I know many from Cameroon working in Germany. So why are they not working in Africa? Why are we not paving the way to bring back these people to come and build what it takes for Africa? Who has our best interest at heart than ourselves?
I think we have to clarify, or maybe I have to clarify. One of the biggest problems that we have in Africa is financing the projects.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now, financing the projects, there are several ways you can do it. And the others, it's a bit complicated to explain, but it's possible because I believe Africa has money. Now, why did I mention China? China is willing to lend you money, right? However, also when we talk of having the Africans doing it, then the governments have to structure it in such a way that we have a lot of Africans involved,
Yes.
right? You have to ensure that the work that's being done is being done by the Africans, and then you graduate people because these projects are massive, right?
Yeah.
And we see that it's not just in Africa. We see even in Canada, we see American companies doing projects here, right? But the people working on the jobs are the Canadian. So that's why we don't hear a lot of noise. So Africa is the same way. We have the people that are skilled to go back and do work. Even on the continent itself right now, there are people who can do the work. The problem that we have is that for some reason we haven't figured out how to liquidate our assets so that we can pay our workers. So that's the issue.
Yeah. James, if you can hear us, what's your take on this? How does this shift fit in the political agenda? How do we start rebuilding Africa with the help of the diaspora, of course?
Yeah, I think you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. For me, I think we first need to focus domestically on some policy issues, and that is at the level of the continent, because we cannot build Africa in the absence of good governance. Good governance is very key in building Africa. So I think there are policy issues that we need to work on. I will share an example with you of recent. There's a situation with the president and policy passed against overthrowing a legitimate government. But then on the other end, more question is coming up. How do we speak to governments that are actually practicing bad governance? How do we speak to them to avoid it? Because we don't want anything like any form of coup d'etat that which is against our continent now. But then by this bad governance thing, because in the absence of good governance, I believe everything we're saying cannot just easily work in Africa. So there's a policy issues that we need to focus on. Let our government actually put in system. There should be a system on the continent that will promote good governance on the continent. And another thing I think we actually need to look at is promoting what is our own, because especially as a continent. So from a political standpoint, I believe our leaders need to focus on putting in system and should live by those systems. Like I can give you another example. There is a change in the constitution in Guinea and that of Ivory Coast. The presidents in those countries have been in office for 2 terms, and they have changed the constitution to contest for another term. So it shows that in the near few months from now, you might likely see another conflict in Ivory Coast and Guinea. And you understand there are diaspora in other countries around the world that have their relatives in Guinea and Ivory Coast. So for me, the bottom line of this whole thing is we need to actually put a system in place from the end of the African Union. There should be a policy put in place on good governance. Our leaders need to be true to themselves. They have to create an enabling environment that will allow people from outside to be willing to come. Because like you talk about the guys in Germany, they are not coming to Africa, is there's no enabling environment for them to come and share their ideas. So I think the enabling environment should be the first step towards building anything on the continent. And that leads to good governance. So good governance should be the major thing that we should speak about. And I think we should start it from the end of the African Union and bring it down to SADC, the ECOWAS, and other sub-regional organizations, and then filter down to the various countries. And there should be tough laws against bad governance, because some leaders are treating their people anyhow they want to do it, or because they have a better relationship with their Western partners that are taking money from them. So I think the African Union should step in, see how we can have a system. If an African leader is not doing well, we should be able to speak to them, but not to wait until there's a coup attempt by another group of people, and then we only condemn the coup and then leave the person with their bad style of leadership to continue. So I think we need to first focus on good governance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Musaba, is this possible at all? Do you think so?
It's is that, I don't know if it's the right word, catch 22 they call it?
Yes, yes, it
is. Because if you look at the representatives at the AU are appointed by the presidents we want to remove. Now imagine this guy. So that's one. Then two, also the diaspora, also I'm not the diaspora, is there a word for people who are not diaspora? Because the people in our own country,
diaspora or Africa, if you are not living out of your country of origin, then you're a diaspora. It could be,
yes, but now the people who are living there, the residents on the continent, they also don't trust when we say things like this, because African countries really, they are very split on politics.
Yeah.
You see? And that's why the presidents manage to extend their terms. That's why they want to have the second term or the fourth term. The reason being that there is no belief in the system. So if a president can convince a good number of people that all the development you have seen is because of me, then he has a good reason to convince a few to go for the next term. But if people, again, it comes to education. That's why education is important. But if people are aware that really development is not in the hands of one person, you see? If we can change the president and still have the same type of government, the same type of development path. So that's why it becomes very tricky, Because that situation you are talking about, it's happening in our country. You see, about going for it has happened in Rwanda already. So it's a very, very tricky situation that we can go to the AU made up of foreign ministers and ambassadors appointed by the president to say don't do that. That becomes very tricky.
That's true.
That is that's your catch 22 or 30, whatever it's called. This okay, but at least we're talking about it, and it will move forward. So I have a call to action, which is to find someone in African Union to have a live stream with, so we can talk about this. So if you know of anyone, any name that you're interested in, let me know. I will reach out. We have to talk about it. It's the truth, you know. People in government take care of themselves, so they put their people, they lay them all around. You know, it's like a safe net for them. So yes, they are not going to speak about changing the politics in the government, but we have to talk about it. So moving to the next question, since our friend is not here today, as a diaspora, things do not always go as planned, and many of us living abroad, we were sent abroad to go continue our studies and be able to help those back at home. It's like you're the safeguard of the family for most of us. But when you get abroad, things do not go as planned, and you're not able to support as much as you could. And sometimes people just change their mind. They don't want to do it anymore because of X, Y reasons, which some of them are very, very valid. And this is causing lots of misunderstanding. There are many Africans abroad that have killed themselves because of peer pressure from their families back home. Some of them are going through depression. There is divorce, just because of this misunderstanding. How do we start having a conversation with our families to begin with on how things really work? And the idea of someone going abroad to come save the family is really not a good plan. Musaba, how do we start this conversation?
It's a very complicated discussion. First of all, most people back home, all of us actually, when we come, we don't have the true picture, right? We don't have the true picture of how it happens here. For example, because in Zambia, when you get a job, the company gives you a house. And before I came here, and when you get paid, right, you get paid the money, you don't have to pay rent. That's the concept I had, that if I go overseas, when I get a job, I'll be living in a company house, right? But when you come here, the money is not enough. And there is always something and then you have to make sure you have at least money that you can pay rent in case something goes wrong, at least for 2 months. You have to save yourself like that, right? And then another issue is that the basics here, what is very basic, looks very luxurious back home. So when people see you, even with new sneakers, and you don't send them money, they are thinking, you can buy new sneakers. Why? You see what I mean? So there's that pressure. So there has to be some kind of, I don't know how it can be done, because this is really at a very, very level that people cannot even help. You see what I mean? Like in terms of family, we just need like maybe a global awareness. But the pressures that people go through at the family level, it's very difficult for others to actually communicate. The reason being that, one, they are actually genuine cases.
Yes.
There are people in the diaspora, Africans with a lot of money, and who can help, but they don't help.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. And it's very difficult. I must admit, it's very difficult to suggest a solution.
It is difficult, but there are also people in Africa that are very rich and they don't want to help. So
Exactly.
I don't understand the pressure the other way around. I want to be perfectly clear that this question, when I wrote down this question, I was talking to myself, because I have been finger pointed. I have cut ties with certain family members because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of telling the truth, of being compared to the person next door who built a house and I was not capable of building a house for my family. I think it's time we Africans get clear in our head and the stories we tell to ourselves and to others. I am perfectly clear. When my family or some certain people of my family they bring this conversation, I am taking out my salary slip and putting it on the table. And let's do the math. If I have these bills, I have this. Tell me what is it that's left that you think I can build a house for you. Let's be perfectly clear. There are cases where people come here, they are not doing the things that you and I do. I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm giving my time to this organization. I'm paying into this organization. But I am not selling drugs. I am not a prostitute. My salary is fixed per month. I have to wait for 28 days to get a salary. I came here as a student. I worked as a nanny, as a cleaning lady to sponsor myself. I did the best that I could for those that I loved. But when I'm being compared to the one next door that doesn't do the same activity as me, I hold it to myself to say, stop, and I cut the link. This is one life that has been destroyed. I have zillions of examples of divorce, of people whose life will never be the same again. All their savings they sent back home that was misused, and their lives will never be the same again. So my message today on this question is, we Africans, when you go home, please tell the truth. There should be one person in your family that you should be able to tell the truth to, at least one. Because when you tell one person the truth, I believe that person will tell the next person the truth. We cannot put everybody in the same basket. We are not all rich. We did not come here fortunate. We did what we could. And yes, now there are opportunities because we worked hard. And also people back home, I have a message for you. Stop sitting and waiting for others to help you because they went abroad. The opportunities in Africa are humongous. Come to Europe, go to America, and see what the opportunities are, and how limited they are, and how structured they are. In Africa, you earn $1, you go home with $1. In Europe, you earn $1, you're going home with $40. Or 40
cents.
Or 40 cents, sorry, 40 cents, exactly. Because you have to pay tax, because you have to do this and do this. And you don't see all of that. All you see is the clothes, is the shoes, and as you said, Musaba. And we really have to get clear on this. The truth must be spoken. Modu, what's your opinion?
Thank you. I mean, I was actually just listening to you. Quite interesting. So I think we just have to be very frank with ourselves. Like, I'll just take myself as an example. You know, I had to come up from a family where almost everyone was outside. And, you know, all I had to rely on was myself. And, you know, I think this is where the problem is. When, you know, I mean, in the past, when I was young, you know, I used to see my brothers come down, fancy clothes and whatnot. But the truth is, we are not telling the real story of what's happening here. And this is actually causing a whole lot of social problems. And that's where most of the misunderstanding is actually coming from. And that's what is actually, for countries like where I'm from, the migration dilemma is actually increased because of this misinformation. So meaning you're actually coming down there I mean, you can make a good fortune with your 9 to 5 job and build a house, and someone can go and sell a job and build a house quickly. But that's a different story when they come back home. I mean, I think, but our families also need to understand what is it about my hustle that makes me different from another person? Is it legit? These are questions that we need to ask ourselves. And it doesn't matter wherever you are. Like I stayed in Gambia, and all I did today was in Gambia. I mean, I'm not, and I've like traveled across Africa and to all African countries, but I never even fancied, even staying in Europe. I always believed that I could make it here. And some people ask me, oh, I mean, how did you manage to get this UN job? How did you manage to get to work at the EU and all this? Because I'm like, it's just determination. But it took me a lot of strides. But how many young people like myself, we really believe that? I mean, and I think we also need to be clear on the dependency rate. We need to be clear. We cannot just be, I mean, it just doesn't work. Like even me today, if I have a 9 to 5 job, I still have some missing holes that I can't fix. Imagine I have a fixed salary, but I can't even fix all the stuff that I want to do. There are times where I probably have to tell my mom, oh, this month my expenses actually went, I mean, beyond my expenses. But we have to be frank. It's more about being real. It doesn't matter. I mean, like you're doing, you have to tell the story how it is. It doesn't matter if everybody leaves you, that's their problem. But we have to be real with our situation. And when we start doing this, at the end of the day, things will start to change. But I think the mindset is really drifting down. Now, I think even with COVID, it has shown us that no one is an island. I mean, look at the war now. It's at a standstill. Most people might not probably want to travel to Europe because of the exposure of actually being infected. And when you look at the trajectory of where Africa should be, you probably would not even want to travel. There's a whole lot of opportunities. So the problem is about now really telling real stories, and those in the diaspora needs to help us because it has to start from there. Because they're the ones that are there. They're the ones that are coming back, from holidays and really, with fancy cars and whatnot. But I mean, your hustle is your hustle. I mean, you can have a cleaning job in Europe and still build a good compound if you really structure yourself very well. It doesn't matter. You can still sell drugs and build 2-story buildings, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because all I care about is I'm able to survive. If you give me something, fine. If you don't give me, I don't give up. I mean, I don't care. Sorry for the language. But I think it's more of about being real to ourselves that when we're going back to our countries, we have to tell the story of being really an immigrant. We're actually out for a purpose. Either you're there to study or you're there to work. Whatever you're doing, it's for your own survival and for the own survival of your family. It shouldn't be a burden. And also across the landscape of Africa, young people need to take ownership of their future. And I said it in Ghana when I was in Ghana. This was the message that actually sent across most of the Ghanaians during the Africa Trade Fair, was that most of the young people need to start believing in themselves. I mean, it's not cool for your life to be dependent on one individual. It's really not okay for you to just see someone as, it's okay to have idols, it's okay to have support, but if they don't, build your own bridge. I mean, God is for everybody. God is life. God is everything. I mean, build yourself. If you fail, you fail. If you make it, you make it. But life shouldn't be a burden for anybody. So, I mean, just to add to your message, I think young people really need to start redefining their purpose in life and really believing that it is what it is. Yeah.
Musaba, what's your take on that?
I agree. I agree with what you just said, and I think even as also as well the comments you made earlier, right? It's extremely sad and difficult because it's we are so many people with different experiences.
Yeah.
Some of us, our families are very supportive. Some their families are not that supportive. And then some, their families are just ignorant. They don't know. They don't want to work, and they are putting pressure on their children or relatives in the diaspora, which I think is not good. And then some of the people, actually, they are the ones that lead to people getting into these vices because they want to be able to live up to the expectations.
Yes.
And I just hope that people, especially the young ones, can be strong enough. There was a very sad case recently of a young Zambian came to school, 21, was actually shot because, and when you look at the family, because I mean, Zambia, you know the name and you know the family. Like when you look at the family where he comes from, like based on the just the best you know, is not a person who should be involved in those things. You see, so you wonder why he was even involved. Was it pressure? Was he trying to live up to something that he wasn't able to, or he didn't want to? You see what I mean? So this is something we have to warn not just ourselves in the diaspora, but our relatives back home, that we shouldn't be looking down on people or even trying to push them into being what they are not or what we are not, including myself.
Yeah. James, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, from my end, I think there are a lot of things that we need to do, and to get rid of this misunderstanding. One of the major things that we need to do is rebranding. It's very important because I will give you instances on two different occasions. It happened sometime 3 months ago. I had a video call with my little niece, and then I was in the living room. So the video call, she asked me, "Where are you?" I told her, "I'm in Africa. I'm home." She told me, "No, but Africa doesn't exist. You are in Africa. You should be seeing elephant." She told me, "I don't think you are in Africa. Maybe you should be seeing lions and other things." I said, "No, this is Africa." And then on the other end, my wife took our daughter for studies in the US a few years ago. So when they got to the US, she asked her mom, "But mom, is this really the US they always talking about?" Because her expectation was more. She expected to see something different, a different world that could be different from everything. So I think the major problem we have here is branding, right? The way we brand the West, the expectation is high for our people.
Yes.
So when you leave here to travel there, they think that you are going to get the entire world. Everything there is free. You get money. So I think we need to rebrand the United States we talk about today in our African context. We need to rebrand Europe the way we define it for ourselves. Because whenever you leave and travel to those places, people think you're just going to collect money from the street, and you should just send them money anyhow. So, and we are not also be honest to them. We need to tell our people what exactly we are doing. Because there are people that travel out. If you are doing a factory work and you know you have 8 hours, tell them that I have 8 hours I'm doing a factory work. And it's not something for joke. I have to work and I have to pay bills. We need to educate our people about what we are exactly doing. And our people are not doing it. Most of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, they present themselves as all is well with them. So for that reason, the demand is more from people actually from Africa to they expect to get more from them. So I think we need to rebrand this whole thing of perception as it relates to how do we see people in Europe and that of Africa. And I can say, I think you just said in Lydia, there are a lot of people with success in Africa here, and we are not seeing them. All we look at is a guy that just in Europe that taking 8 hours and getting like $10 per hour or $12 or $13, and we think they should still send up money. But then if you look at the analysis, there's no need to send you money because you're making more money than the person that is in Europe. But because of the branding is what actually causing the problem. We need to rebrand Africa, and we need to rebrand the perception about people in the diaspora. Is very important. Other than that, there will always be issues along the line. And I think that should start from the level of the family, right? Like Lillian, the way you said it was very good, right? You need to communicate to your family, tell them, okay, this is what I'm doing to make my living. This is what I spend at the end of the day. So you don't expect to get much from me because I have to pay all of these things. We need to communicate to our people. We need to educate them and tell them exactly what we are doing. But if we present ourselves that everything is okay, trust me, there will always be more demand for more things from us.
Yeah. I completely agree, and everything is okay. It's true that there is a difference between the life here and life there. Yes. However, there are also very rich people there. It's just different actions that we take at different stages of our lives. There are also poor people here in Europe. In Switzerland, there are poor people, but that we don't talk about. So it's time to talk about it. But also, I think one of the major problem here is that we as Africans do not create generational wealth for ourselves, so our children become that thing that will save us from misery. The family abroad becomes that thing that will get us out of that poverty. If we had started slowly to build generational wealth, your child going out there, you will be very proud to be able to support that child rather than sitting and waiting for that child to come save you. So our culture was we have children, so they go to the farm and help us with agriculture. And when they try and push them, let them go to school. When they get to school, then they will come help you. They will come build you a house. What if we turn this around and say, we want to start maybe with a little insurance. So when we retire, we can have something for ourselves. And we do not necessarily need our kids to suffer for that sake. What if we start changing our mind? Musaba.
Yes, generation wealth is very important. One of the you mentioned insurance at the end, right? Even here in the diaspora, I'm not sure about your countrymen, but from my country, what I see, especially in the United States, when someone passes away, not everyone, but most cases,
Yeah.
we get GoFundMe, we
Yes.
send the body home, right?
Yes. Yes.
I remember one story that I remember vividly up to today was when I came here. My first job, proper job I got was in a warehouse. We were working of office furniture, and I made a friend from Ethiopia. Then after about 2 weeks, I stopped seeing him, and then I asked around. I was told, "Oh, he's unfortunately his father passed away." So, but when is he coming back to work? Then someone told me, "Oh, I don't think he's going to come back to work. You know, he was an only child, and his father, when he died, his insurance paid out $2 million, right?" So it was a tragedy that his father passed away.
Yeah.
But this person, I don't even remember his name because I only met him for like 2 weeks. He inherited $2 million from the father's insurance and I think a house. Now, why is this information important, right? This information is important because most of in the Western culture they buy insurance. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You see, it costs less than what we spend on cell phones or even on cable TV. You
Yep.
see what I mean?
Yep.
And they don't buy insurance. In fact, when people buy insurance, they don't buy insurance to thinking they are going to die. No, that's not
No.
why you buy insurance.
No.
Insurance gives you peace of mind. Now, most our culture, we are afraid to buy insurance because we think we are saying we are going to die. You see, and that's one area we have to look at. It's very, very important for people to start getting insurance, especially in the diaspora. Then, secondly, back home, I think our governments have to look at title, right? A lot of African countries, people have access to land. Almost very few Africans, I must say, don't have access to land. And most Africans don't value the land in their villages. You see, that land is very, very important. That's our wealth. And we have to work on ensuring that land goes on title, that it belongs to at least the family. And that becomes the generation wealth. You are not going to be poor as long as you have land. And that's the area we have to focus on. We have to educate ourselves on that because, as we can see, depending on which part of Africa you are, not just the Chinese are publicized, but the Europeans, they come and buy chunks and chunks of land for almost nothing in Africa. And it will be very difficult to move them. You see? So we have to ensure that is done. And when you build a house, then the kids cannot be homeless. It will keep going on. Like the children that come will never have to worry about building a house because they have a house that belongs to the family.
Yeah. Completely agree. Completely agree. It's a discussion we need to have. And I would really like in your respective countries if we could have people who are doing insurances to prove to the Africans that it's not that expensive. That's one thing. The next thing is, as the diaspora, if you have a loved one back home, take it upon yourself, if you want to help, to ignite the change of offering them an insurance. Rather than sending money all the time, start that change, get them an insurance and see how it goes. Then they can continue with that insurance. It's just a matter of the education. Some of them will reject, some of them will not want, they will think it's too much money, they need the money now to eat now. But what if we start, what if we start that change of, instead of sending $50, we send 25 and we have an insurance for a parent or for an auntie or for a brother. So next stop will be to get people who are doing insurances in Africa, because you can have an insurance while you're abroad for a family member back home. Nothing stops you. Nothing stops you. So I think we should all look in this direction. James, what's your opinion?
For me, it's good. It's something good. But then one of the problem with this whole thing is about trust, right? Insuring in Europe and America is different from insuring in Africa. Trust is a major issue here. Most of our people are not also educated about the importance of insurance. It's another major thing. And on the other end, we have a society that is a socialist society. Though we practice some level of capitalism, but we are a socialist environment. The entire Africa is a socialist continent. That is, whatsoever you have, family will always share. Like Musuba was just saying, when there's a house, the family will share the house and people will always have things in common. So I think the insurance system should actually go towards building the family and having people to be independent instead of saving money for them. So having a family members in a family that you can educate, I think that's the best form of insurance, instead of just putting money in banks. Because if you educate someone in the family, that person can automatically be able to do something for the next person in the family and be able to help. So I think we have to look at something that will be more of tangible than just saving, because the guy is actually struggling and you're talking about insurance. So how long will it take before he pick up? So I think our insurance should go into human capacity development, especially education or whatsoever means that they can be independent for themselves. Now, relating to our parents, it's also important that whatsoever, because I think there are people in the US and other places who are in their 60s, 70s, and they are still doing something into business and other things, sitting and waiting. So they have to start something doing. Yeah, we have to allow them to do something with whatsoever they can do instead of just, giving them things and then having some form of insurance. I think the way we can do it is by empowering people. Once we empower people, they themselves can be able to create that for themselves across the continent. And for diaspora, I think the major things to do is to give money for tangible projects and initiatives across the continent. Not just, okay, I'm sending money for my mom because she needs to go to a hospital. I think we need to stop that. You should be able to send money for your mom for her to start a business, and then when she's sick, she can be able to use some of the profit to go to hospital. I think that's a system we need to build on the continent. With that, we are building the capacity of people to be independent, and they can create their own saving and own insurance system.
Yeah. I completely agree with all what you've said, but also I would like to correct a few points. When I talk about insurance, I would like to really stress out that there are all sorts of insurance, of insurance. Meaning, you could also have an insurance and say, when you stop working at the age of 55, then that insurance is a plus to your salary. And that insurance will not stop. It continues for life until you drop dead. And if you drop dead, someone in your family, your spouse or somebody benefits from it. So it's not, there are all sorts of insurance. You also spoke about trust, about the insurance in Africa and the insurance in the developed world. That's not completely true, because generally, It's everywhere on the planet, and it's the same principle. So there are insurances which are worldwide, and you can trust them. They've been here for 150 years, and they exist in Africa as well. So I'm not talking about the local insurance. I'm talking about real good insurance, and they don't cost that fortune. And even if they do, let's think of how widespread this offer is that we're offering to our family. But of course, it has a cost. Now we have to ask ourselves the questions. Is it really worth investing in this? Or is it really worth pressing somebody to the very end of their life because we want them to help us? There are all sorts of insurance. There are insurances you can put your money for 3 years, 5 years, and you get something out of. There are all sorts of it. But we need to educate our people about it. We need to talk about it, and we need to show how it really works. Because I believe this is one of the things that we should be thinking of in Africa.
That's true. That's true. But then, Lania, quickly, there's a situation I just want to share with you with the issue of insurance, right?
Yes.
Now, from the local context, there is a system that once you are working for the government, like here, there's a certain portion of your salary that goes towards that particular insurance. You have to pay it, and it's deducted from your salary. Now, you won't believe that there are people here, and they are being retired, and they cannot get a benefit.
That's why insurance. There you go. Thank you very much. I like that comment. That is exactly what I'm saying. Is that when you are working for the government, they promise you. But if you get a second insurance, then when you retire, you get benefit from this insurance. At least that will save you, and you will not pressure your children. This is what I'm saying. This is the point. You will not put all your eggs in one basket. We put all our eggs thinking we work for the government, thinking our children will help us. But what if we start working towards a second insurance, which will not, everything fails. If there's market crash, but at least that's a second income stream that you're creating for yourself.
Yeah,
that's thank you very much. That's really a good point. That's exactly it. Musaba. What's the legacy you want to leave for Africa?
Yes. Insurance is.
We can't hear you.
I think for me, great example for the Africa. You can hear me?
Yes, now it's good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I was saying, as you know, I have an organization called OOD Africa, right?
Yes.
And basically, that is based on the book. It's an organization that I founded that I don't believe it belongs to me. I believe that it's something that I want the concept to go across Africa, so that people can use the methodology to develop rural communities and build wealth and eliminate poverty. So basically, that's what I would like to leave. I mean, to be remembered for as someone who contributed to eradication of poverty in Africa.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I think you're already doing it. You're doing an amazing job, and God knows how much effort you put in supporting other people. God knows how much your honesty is being appreciated. I know I was in a meeting with you, in a Zoom meeting, and you said something that struck me, and I was like, oh. You said, I am not sure I'm the right person for this. And I'm like, whoa, how honest can someone be to say, I'm not sure I'm the right one to do this job? So from the bottom of my heart, you've done a great job. You're working towards something that very few people have the courage to talk about. And you do it with such simplicity. And I will never be able to thank you enough for that aspect of your work. So let's continue working for the greatness of Africa, because there is a lot we could do. There is a lot we could push forward for, and it's not over yet. We are all here to make this change one step at a time. Through your book, we learn a lot. Through you, I've learned a lot in this short period of time. And I hope that you will grant me the space in your life. So if I have questions, if I have connections, if I have links, that you will be the big brother that we need on this platform to push things for us. Please.
Thank you.
James, what's your legacy for Africa?
Yeah, for me, the legacy I want to leave for Africa is I want to see a green Africa when I'm leaving, an Africa that is clean, an Africa that is actually self-sustainable in terms of food production, not an Africa that will be importing everything, especially food agriculture products. So I would really like to see an Africa that would be very, very good for better health, environmental wise, and also having better food in terms of organic food that will go across the continent. So that's the Africa I would like to see.
And I'm joining you on that. How can we support your project?
Come again?
I'm joining you on that. How can we support your project?
I think the major support we will need is to share the message across globally, to share our story, share our work that we do, that people can see exactly what we are doing. And also, we would like also to work with Musuba, especially where we can be able to develop a software in terms of tracking people, because we want to have a software that when you have garbage, a lot of garbage to your home, you just be able to use our apps and then see how best you can call down our team for emergency and other things. And that's something we want to use across the country. So we will really need you to sell our message out there globally about what Green Cities is actually doing. Because with that, we believe there will be a lot of opportunities coming across us, and there will be a lot of things happening in terms of what we.
You're in good hands with Musaba. He has a wealth of knowledge. He will be able to advise you more than I can. But yes, this conversation continues. I will bring you back. I will bring people from the Western world. We will find collaboration. I will always be there for your project. You know that. And just promise me one thing. Keep
Yeah,
protecting, keep protecting women the way you do. Please.
exactly. Yeah,
Okay?
I'm always doing it.
Yeah.
I'm
You know
always
what I
doing
mean.
that.
You know what I mean. Keep protecting them the way you do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always doing that.
Thank you so much, brothers. It was Mo, that was long. And I hope that this conversation continues. We should try to do it more often. We should bring people from different countries so we learn from each other and we really create some kind of ecosystem that the continent needs. The continent needs us, but we also need that continent. But there is
Yeah,
this friction, there is misunderstanding. How can we make things, profitable for everyone? Africa is one of the most richest continent on the planet, but yet we remain poor. Are we selfish? Are we stupid? Are we lazy? Than who? Or less than who? Or more than who? So it's time for us to change this belief of not being good enough, this belief of this negative thought of Africa. It's our time, it's our responsibility to make that change, and it starts with us right here. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we'll have this conversation again next month.
thank you.
Musaba.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And
Okay.
thank you
Thanks very
meeting you,
much.
James.
Yeah, thanks also, Musaba. It was great meeting you. And we'll hope we'll keep in connection.
I will I will link anyway. We know where to find each other, and something will happen. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Lee.
Yes, Awifi, and that was it. Beautiful conversation, truth spoken. I hope you had pleasure listening to this conversation. Please comment, share your opinions with us. We are here for you. We want to see you shine. We want the Africa that we love be fully responsible for their own lives. So take care of yourself, be kind with yourself, be gentle with yourself, and we'll see you in the next live stream. Bye bye.